Let's see how the Mi Note 10 stacks up against the competition. We've got it up against one of the flagships in the Xiaomi lineup, the Mi 9, and also the P30 Pro, because it's hard not to think this is Xiaomi's version of the P30 Pro. It offers a very similar curved screen design, a similar notch cutout, and of course, that long range zoom camera, similar to what you find in the P30 Pro. The Mi Note 10 is giving us a 730G Snapdragon chipset. It's the best mid-range chip you can get at the moment, but it is not a flagship chipset, whereas the Mi 9 and the P30 Pro were flagships in their time. So is it better to go for a brand new mid-range phone, or maybe get a slightly older flagship phone? Which is going to be the better performer? During app openings, the Mi Note 10 was last most of the time, but in normal daily usage, it's not really going to make much difference. Antutu scores again are a decent indicator of how powerful the chipset is, but when you're using the phone daily, it's not something you're going to notice too much. The Mi 9 got a really poor score here. I don't know why that was, but you can see that 730G chipset just isn't as powerful as the other two. Exporting a 1080p 5-minute video in KineMaster on all of the phones. You can only go up to 1080p with the Mi Note 10, so I've kept it fair and done that on the other two phones too. Unsurprisingly, because of the mid-range chipset, it was last to finish. The P30 Pro and the Mi 9 putting in a good score for each of those, but again, the mid-range chipset will suffer against the flagship chipsets. Something where the chipset doesn't really matter too much is with RAM management. So you can see I'm opening every app on the phone in this list. It comprises of every app that you would use on a daily basis, social media, games, browsing apps, news apps, etc. So I've opened all of these apps, and then let's see which apps are in memory or if any have been closed down. PUBG has been kept open in all, so that's a good thing. Going through to Subway Surfers, again, it's been kept open in all the phones. Baidu is a web browsing app much like Google, and again has been kept open in all the phones. Moving on to QQ Music, which is often closed if RAM is getting short, but as you can see, it's still open in all the phones. Then moving towards the bottom of the list, going through to Taobao, which is the shopping app. These may be closed if RAM is getting short, but again, it's open in all of the phones. iQIYI is a video streaming app, and all the phones keep it in memory. A good job so far by all of the phones. Moving through to Weibo, which is a bit like Twitter. Even though that is an ad screen, it is still open. And then WeChat is the final app. It was kept open in all of the phones. So that's 6 GB of RAM, performed just as well as the 8 GB in the Huawei. Something I noticed is that the fingerprint sensor is really high up on the Mi Note 10 compared to the P30 Pro. Xiaomi say the Mi Note 10 offers a much bigger fingerprint sensor than before. That means you can be slightly less accurate with putting your thumb on the screen. I would have to give opening times just to the P30 Pro because I think the animation looks quicker. And also compared to the Mi 9, the fingerprint sensor is higher on the screen than Xiaomi's own flagship phone, but how about the unlocking times? Again, as you can see, I think the animation on the Mi 9 is a little bit quicker than the Mi Note 10's. However, the actual hardware involved, I don't think there's too much difference between it. It is just down to the animation. Another thing that I noticed with the Mi Note 10 versus the Mi 9 is the snappiness of the camera app. Flicking through that camera app to photos, to 108 megapixel mode or 48 megapixel mode in the Mi 9, and then to video, it takes a second or two longer on the Mi Note 10 to actually load the capture screen. Having the P30 Pro side by side with the Mi Note 10, these really are cut from the same cloth. They have a lot of similarities. But again, somewhere that the mid-range chipset will cut back is with gameplay, as you can't use high refresh rate mode when you're playing PUBG. A non-issue if you're not a really avid gamer, but we've seen high refresh rate mode on the K20 Pro, and it's certainly there with the Realme X2 Pro, and adding a 90Hz refresh rate screen onto that is really great. Coming back to this with a 60Hz refresh rate screen and no high refresh rate mode on PUBG, it feels a little bit choppy, but it is difficult to compare those because the phones are really made for different audiences and for different things. Subscribe for all the latest tech videos and everything to do with Xiaomi. That's it for now, but I'll see you in the next one.